Tú eres muy malo. Roto el pato de vestuario. La interpretación siempre negativa. Siempre negativa. Nunca positiva.
Hello, welcome to Siempre Positivo after Barcelona beat Osasuna 2-0 on Saturday. Raphinha scoring both goals as Hansi Flick's side moved 7 points clear of Real Madrid at the top of LaLiga. That may have changed by the time you're listening to this, but for a change, we are recording on Sunday ahead of Real Madrid's trip to Alaves. I'm Sam Marsden, joined by Rik Sharma and Toni Joan Marti. Rik, how are you?
I'm hungry. Looking forward to dinner. Looking forward to the pod as well, and then dinner.
Toni, ¿qué tal? ¿Cómo están?
Good evening. How are you? All fine. All good.
Good, yeah. That was speedy. No weather mentions. Nothing from Rik. No dressing gowns because it's late in the day. I don't know where to go. I've been thrown into the deep end far too quickly. That's not how podcasts are supposed to go. It's supposed to be some trivial.
No. Nothing to add, I guess, because it's Sunday night and the mood is a little bit not depressing, but Sunday night is never the best mood, I think. I don't know for you, but normally Sunday night is bad mood.
I think for people that work sort of jobs Monday to Friday, obviously our jobs aren't always necessarily Monday to Friday, so we don't get that well, I don't know if this is more of a UK thing, but we don't get that Sunday sort of doom, or I don't, of like, I'll back to work tomorrow because we've had the weekend off because maybe we've been working at the weekend, but we also miss out on that Friday feeling that is probably bigger in the UK than in Spain, that sort of rush of people sort of finishing work at 5 and the sort of buzz around cities and towns of the weekend being here.
Yeah, it's a glorious feeling in the UK, 5pm, 6pm, if you're off for the weekend, which wasn't really the case for me. I often worked most weekends when I was back in the UK. But when I had a weekend off, it was great to just join in with that as well. Down the pub, everyone buzzing. Fantastic.
Right, now I can talk about Barca on Saturday, as they made it 5 wins from 5 at Spotify Camp Nou since returning to the stadium with a 7th straight La Liga win, this time against Osasuna. It was a frustrating afternoon at times, one-way traffic as Osasuna sat back and Barca struggled to break them down, playing I don't know if it's a new front four, I should have done my research properly, but with a front four of Rashford, Raphinha in the 10, Lamine on the right and Ferran Torres through the middle. They did come close through a Ferran Torres goal, which seemed onside at first, although it was a slightly strange one because it was later revealed that there was an offside from the short corner, which no one had spotted, and the goal was ruled out. It looked perhaps briefly like maybe Osasuna would hold on for a 0-0. Barca, of course, have scored in every La Liga game since last December the 15th when they lost to Leganes. So you'd imagined a goal would come, but when Rashford, for example, missed one of their good chances, having a shot blocked inside the box when he should have perhaps pulled it into the bottom corner, it looked like maybe, just maybe, they might not score again. But the goal finally came when Pedri broke free, set up Raphinha and he hammered home to make it 1-0, and he then added a second late on after a Osasuna disallowed goal for a foul on Joan Garcia. Jules Koundé deflected cross arriving at the far post and Raphinha turning home his 6th goal in La Liga this season. Rik, perhaps not the most headline-producing performance, but solid enough in the circumstances, and another 3 points for Barcelona?
I suppose so, but I wasn't really happy with the game, with the performance, with what Barca were up to. But the goal didn't come, the first goal, Raphinha's goal, didn't come as a result of Barca were pressuring Osasuna and it was inevitable that they were going to score. Actually came somewhat out of the blue. And Barca seemed to had lost a bit of steam by the time they eventually scored the first goal. This game could easily have ended up 0-0 for me. I think defensively they were okay. First clean sheet in 6, so bit better there, and didn't give up too many big chances. I mean, still far from perfect, but overall an improvement. But in attack, they really lacked spark in this game, Barca, and it perfectly could have been 0-0.
Yeah, Tony, what did you think? I've seen it's quite a funny game. It's probably the game where I've seen the most divisive opinions, not necessarily massively divisive, but just in terms of people's opinions differing so much in terms of whether Barca did well in getting the job done, but also individually on whether Pedri was the best player or whether Lamine Yamal was the best player, or whether Lamine Yamal's slightly off it at the moment, etc., or whether Gerard Martin is in fact the new Maldini, as everyone keeps sort of saying, etc. Tony, what did you make of Barca's win against Osasuna?
For me, it's these kind of games where only with attitude, you don't need to be, how do you say, without playing well. I mean, without playing well, without having a really good performance, only with attitude. In this Liga where teams have every time lower and lower talent, only with the right attitude, you will end up winning 80% of the games. And this is one of these examples. You don't need to be at a very good level to win. Only with attitude. It's very difficult that at least one time in 90 minutes there is no one penalty or one concrete action, one individual action. Something happens that will end up making the difference, as it happened with Raphinha. Did Barça play really well? Not especially well. But Barça was focused, concentrated, good attitude. And when you do this, the result can be 1, 2, but you end up winning because these opponents have no enough talent. So I wouldn't take big conclusions as a team. It's true that now you are in a new scenario. The feeling is that you survived the most difficult moment of the season, and now you have a honeymoon in terms of people in the bench, backup. So it's you are leader with 7 points ahead of Madrid. Let's see what happens against Alaves this night. So yeah, wouldn't take big conclusions. We can talk about individual names, especially Gerard Martin again with a great performance. And that's all. So yeah, good game, no injuries, and the feeling that the more nervous is Madrid, the more anxiety there is in Madrid, the more calm you can be in Barcelona. And right now you see that the players have the anxiety that you had 1 month ago.
It's a bit like that, isn't it, Rick, at the moment with Barcelona? Almost sort of no news is good news in terms of the win against Osasuna.
Yeah, no, absolutely. They're one of the points that they need to get through to Christmas with another 3 points at Villarreal next weekend, and then reassess with the Spanish Super Cup and so on, and then the real business end of the season. I have done your research for you, Sam. Barca did have, in fact, lined up one time with your so-called Fantastic Four.
Let me guess. Was it against Levante, second game of the season?
Yes, it was. That was the game, because obviously Rashford was mainly on the bench in the start of the season. With the exception of that game, Ferran started up front because Lewandowski was out, and then also Raphinha and Lamine were there.
Yeah, I was at that game, and I knew for a fact that it was Rashford, Raphinha as the 10, and Lamine on the right, and that Rashford came off at half time when Barca were obviously losing to Levante. But I couldn't remember if it was Lewandowski or Ferran starting. When I was trying to remember as I was speaking in my head. If I'd have thought about it, I'd have remembered that Lewandowski was injured at the start of the season and probably had a bet on it. But yeah, I forgot. Let's talk about that front four then. What do you make of it? I think for me, I don't know. It's a very, very small sample size, but I think that Raphinha is best off the left. And I know, perhaps given the nature of this game, you know, if this was an end-to-end Champions League game, perhaps that front four would have looked very different in terms of Rashford and Raphinha having more space to run in, as opposed to against the Osasuna side who sat, you know, as deep as any side has done against Barca, as I can remember, and certainly in recent weeks. But I still I like, it's one of those ones where you see it on paper and you think, you know, Ferran just scored a hat-trick, you know, you've got Raphinha back into the side, he's going to be a pressing menace, but I don't quite know about him as the 10. What do you make of that front four?
Yeah, I didn't particularly like it. I think you have a good point in that maybe in a different game, in a match that's more suited to these players, sort of getting in behind, a match where they got space and stuff like that, maybe it could work quite well. But against Osasuna, who defended very well, they were quite deep. They weren't like incredibly deep, but they were quite deep and very well organised defence in this game. So it was really hard, especially with Raphinha in the 10, to sort of break them down. I mean, I've said many times that I think Barca, as a position Barca are lacking in. I think maybe in this game it could have been more interesting to see Lamine there than Raphinha, because I think he's just got a little bit more creativity. Although in the end, and the fact is, Raphinha decided this game from the 10 because of all the players that Barca have, he's got the best shot. So he stood on the edge of the box and he smashed the ball into the far corner, and he won this game because he was in the 10 position, even though I think he had a poor game overall as a number 10. I don't think it's his position, really. But he does have these qualities.
It ties in quite nicely to what Tony says about this being a victory for attitude, that the goals are scored in a victory for attitude by Raphinha, kind of links quite well to that idea, given, he's a player who leads by attitude. There are moments in the final third where he doesn't have the finesse of, what you might expect from another 10 or a Lamine at times or whatnot, but he will never be lacking in attitude. Tony, it's something we've spoken about, I guess, quite a bit in recent weeks. Raphinha's role, Barca's number 10 position, we spoke about it quite a lot last week. Like I said to Rik, it's difficult to judge it, perhaps, given the nature of the game on Saturday. But do you think it's something that Flick has in mind long term, or something he's using because, Fermin Lopez has just come back from injury, Dani Olmo's out, he wants to get minutes in the legs of, Raphinha, he wanted to bring Rashford in, etc. Or do you think it's something Flick thinks, I really want to play Raphinha through the middle and get that make that a thing?
Well, it's obvious, no, that when there is not a coast-to-coast game, for example, I remember the game against Bayern last year in Montjuic, or when you have coast-to-coast games, box-to-box, for me, Raphinha fits 100% in the position of number 10. It's obvious, due to his skills, that when there are no spaces, or lots of spaces, on the number 10, he struggles a little bit, no, to be as dangerous as he can be. So normally you would see him on the left, but in big games, it's what we were saying in the last podcast, no? If you don't have Raphinha on the left, it can only mean two things: because you have Rashford or because you have Ferran. In big games, I don't see Lamine and Rashford both, because that Rashford is difficult for him to press, the same a little bit for Lamine. If we see in big games Raphinha as a number 10, in my opinion, it will be because Hansi Flick is not able to decide to choose between Ferran and Lewandowski, because both are in good shape. Then we might see Raphinha as a number 10, Ferran fake left wing, honestly like a second striker, and Lewandowski. So the attitude of Raphinha makes that he can be useful also as a number 10. Yesterday, what he scores is as a number 10, the first goal in the center. But it's true that when there are no spaces, it's more complicated, because against close defenses, maybe you need more the profile of Fermin, Olmo. So that's what I think. In big games, for me, it's difficult to imagine Raphinha there with Rashford on the left, at least from the beginning.
Yeah, it's interesting because obviously some things, as I said to Rik and we've spoken about, feel so suited to that, end-to-end game. But then defensively, like you say, questions of having Rashford and Lamine perhaps as your two wingers when you're playing against a team that's going to come at you a little bit more. I think you have to play. I just feel like all Raphinha's best work for Barca since he's been here has come off the left. He might have had the odd good game on the right in his first season, done okay through the middle, but I just think on the left he's so much better. But I'm interested to see that, because I've said for a couple of weeks now, I think Flick's all season had this idea of trying to sort of shoehorn him in as the 10. So we'll see what happens when Olmo comes back in the new year, if Fermin gets into form, whether he ends up pushing Pedri there, has been suggested in recent weeks, to play Eric alongside Frenkie or whatnot. We'll see. I guess we should do a quick Ferran section. I don't want to labour on this too much, because we'll be doing it every week. I don't know how much people love the Ferran section. Obviously last week there was loads and loads of Ferran because he scored a hat-trick, so it's only fair that we labour a little bit of Ferran now that he's not scored. He had a few chances. I saw some people describe them as sitters. There was one which he poked over from a Lamine Yamal cross, which, perhaps he could have left and it might have gone in, or he could have done slightly better. There were a couple of others. There was the acrobatic bicycle kick that he almost scored, Rik, that went just wide.
Yeah.
There was the header that he did score, which was offside. How was Ferran's performance? I'm losing my voice.
I have a question for Tony. Did he bring his stat package today? Are the stats updated after this game?
We can do it, yes. But don't forget that to score goals you have to be fit. If you are old and you have pain in your back and you cannot play along the 90 minutes, obviously you cannot score.
Yeah. No, I'm joking about that, because in the end I think Ferran was okay in this game. But I mean, the problem is, in terms of just looking at Ferran's performance with everything else, discussions with Tony and all that aside, I think he was okay. I think in the first half he was maybe slightly better than okay. He did quite well. He had the goal, which wasn't his fault that it was offside. I mean, it wasn't a great header. It was kind of inaccurate header, but he got it in. And obviously then, because of Raphinha's boot was offside, the goal was ruled out. He looked a bit dangerous in the first half. Second half, I think his confidence faded away a bit, and he looked like the old Ferran. He looked Ferran who was not capable of getting in on the ball when quite dangerous crosses came into the area. He didn't have the wherewithal to get on the end of them, or he didn't manage to make contact with them. And he looked, worse in terms of his touch and build-up. Apart from for the second goal, where he actually did a good piece of hold-up play, as was discussed in the Discord, that he plays a role in the second goal, which actually is my main issue with Ferran. Because if he always did what he did for the second goal, I would be much happier with him. And that's why, you know how in previous pods, Tony's been saying, but he scores, so it's fine, that's his main job. But actually, Barca's second goal comes about because Ferran helps to build it. And he didn't score it and he didn't get the assist, but he helped to build it. And I think he hasn't done enough of that in the past. But looking at it in the context of the previous pods and discussions with Tony, well, I want to know what Tony makes of Ferran's performance and whether this fits with what he has built, the new reality of Ferran, whether this belongs in it.
No, did he miss clear chances? For me, no. For me, he didn't miss any clear chance that you say like the same that happened in Stamford Bridge. He's a finisher.
No, it wasn't like that.
So he's a finisher. He finished the one that the problem is that he was offside, but he didn't miss. So for me, it was not a problem of Ferran. I mean, he didn't. For me, he was okay. But if you don't have the chance as a finisher,
if you don't reach across because you're not in the right position, or you don't go and shoot the cross, you're not missing the chance. It just goes by without being a chance. And there were in moments in the second half where a different striker, I'm not saying necessarily Lewandowski would have scored, but a sort of a more deadly striker would be making contact with these crosses.
This is one of the problems. Depending on the crosses, especially if the ball is in the air, it's not Ferran's best skill. And even more against centre backs like Catena, who is 190 and he's very tall. So this is not the best way to connect with Ferran. So I don't think there is any problem with Ferran regarding the game with Osasuna. The opposite. Take a look. I saw him working with confidence. Bad luck with that disallowed goal. For me, nothing special. I mean, not bad, not perfect, but I wouldn't say it's the problem. Not at all. Not at all.
No, not the main problem of Barca. Certainly not.
What do you think regarding the first half of Raphinha? I think
bad.
So at the end, the difference is that he scored 2 goals, and I keep my opinion. I don't mind if you play well or not, but if you don't score goals when you are number 9, it's not a good game. So for me, not a good game because you are the number 9 and you didn't score against Osasuna. For me, that easy. If Ferran does 2 or 3 more games not scoring, even if he creates good passes or good connections, for me, you will see that we will have Lewandowski again. It's simple. Being number 9 of Barca, it is about scoring. It is about scoring. Punto.
We might have a Lewandowski regardless. I think Lewandowski could start the next game if he's fit and ready to play.
Well, yes, the next game, yes, because it's Copa del Rey game. So yes, for sure we will see Lewandowski.
But what I mean is, it doesn't matter if Ferran doesn't score, Lewandowski comes in because Flick's chosen it. In your opinion, Ferran deserves to be out of the team if he doesn't score in his next game or next 2 games.
For me, the numbers of Ferran makes that he needs to have the trust. And what is totally unfair is what happened that after making a hat-trick, then he was on the bench on the following game against Eintracht, I think. For me, yes, he deserves to be still the number 9. But if, for example, 1 or 2 more games, if he doesn't score, for me, if in 2 games more he doesn't score, for example, it's moment to try Rashford as a number 9, to count on Robert. At the end, you have to take credit on the shape of the players. If he enters in a run, in a strike where he's not with a good shape, in the bench, this is what it is about. But like Koundé.
But that's not the new reality that you said about Ferran in terms of he's now, he's different. He's not the old Ferran where he plays well and then he goes off and then then he's back on, and then he's off. You're saying now he's turned into...
No, but this is the new reality. Look what we are saying. We are saying that it was like not very good game. This 2 years ago, we would have been saying that more or less good game. So we are now more demanding with him. It means that we are in a new reality.
Yeah.
What it would have been a 6 last year, this year was... now it's like a 4.5. We are complaining that he didn't score, so not enough. For me, nothing wrong. You cannot score 60 goals every day. Lamine didn't score neither. Lamine didn't score.
Yeah. And Lamine, and it's a separate point, separate topic. Lamine, this is a topic I've been talking about for like 4 or 5 weeks now. Maybe slightly less, 4 or 5 games at least. Lamine has been quite bad. With the exception of the Betis game, where he was quite good in that game, playing as the 10. Against Chelsea, against Alaves, against Atletico, against Frankfurt, and now against Osasuna. He's been quite bad, Lamine Yamal.
Bueno, wouldn't say quite bad, but not on his best version, I would say, yes.
I don't agree that he's been bad, but it all kind of ties in with foul shed on the Discord, but it's just something that we've spoken about as well in recent weeks, where the 2024 v the 2025 stats, and obviously Barca after 17 games last season had 35 points. This year they've got 43 points. They've scored more goals. They've conceded one more. But in general, it's obviously the Champions League is slightly different. The stats are much, much better. And like Tony said there with Ferran, 2 years ago, it's different judges. This is like the new reality where, the bar was not even set last season because, last season still had flaws, because last season was so unexpected. Perhaps we're kind of downplaying a little bit. This season, every game, Lamine does something that should or could lead to a goal or brings people to their feet. Or I'm not saying that's enough necessarily. I'm just saying I don't necessarily think he's had bad games. The cross for Ferran, the moments that he created yesterday, there were still moments where if that was a normal 18-year-old, you'd be going, who's this kid?
I accept the point in general. I think maybe in some of the other games, like against Alaves, he scored and so on. But yesterday, I didn't really feel that. He had a couple of moments where he tried to do a good piece of skill, but it didn't come off for him either.
Yeah. Maybe just he's not.
What was his good moments yesterday? What moments stood out for you for Lamine?
Well, there's one in the build up to that. There's one that Ferran chance when it sort of scruffed behind him, and he sort of, I can't remember exactly what happens with the chance to Ferran. There's the other one when he cuts inside past like 3 or 4 men, and his shot rebounds to Ferran for the bicycle kick. There's the cross for Ferran, which is really good, which Ferran pokes over, which might have gone in.
That was that cross that Ferran hit over the bar in the first half is probably the highlight for me from Lamine. But it wasn't like a crazy cross or anything. But yeah,
a couple of other good balls into the box or across the box. I'm not saying loads and loads of really good things, but I'm saying there were probably 5 or 6 things that, in general, in one match would lead to a goal. Either an assist or a goal, which is...
Well, I wouldn't go that far. But if it was Rooney Bartadji doing them, maybe I would say he had an okay game,
Yeah. No, you would do. If that was Rooney Bartadji, you'd have said he did quite well.
I understand he's changed from the last few games. He's gone crazy.
Yeah. All right, then, let's hear the ratings from Barcelona to Osasuna now.
Joan Garcia, 7.5, made a couple of good saves. Maybe I haven't seen a properly. Zilla was saying he got lucky with the Osasuna goal ruled out late on, where he was sort of crashed into.
Yeah, should you quickly explain that?
Yeah, go on. Okay, so well, maybe I don't know if you've seen it again. Maybe you'd be better to explain it. But yeah, he crashes into, or Catena crashes into him by accident, and he goes down and.
Well, Catena's pushed, isn't he? Slightly gets a push from a Barca player and sort of goes down and takes out Joan Garcia. So, I mean, I haven't seen a lot of uproar about it, have you?
No. But that's probably why I haven't seen it again, because it's not being splashed everywhere and saying, look at this.
I think the whistle went from the referee immediately, because otherwise there was no VAR review or anything, was there? Obviously, the rebound was put in. But I think most people stopped, apart from the scorer and Joan Garcia, who tried to sort of get back and save the goal.
Yeah, there was no sensation that when the ball went in, there was a chance it was going to be a goal. It felt like everything had come to a stop before that, yeah. Koundé 5, Cuba 6, Gerard Martin 6.5. Was okay, Gerard Martin. He had 1 or 2 moments where he just let people get in behind him far too easily. But other than that, it's continued his quite a good run of games, quite a good run of form. Balde 6.5, Eric 7, thought he was pretty tidy. Pedri 8, standout performer for me in this game, helped create the first goal for Raphinha. Lamine 6, Rafa 7. I mean, his overall performance was not good, but 2 goals, so give him a 7. Rashford 5.5, Ferran 6. That's my ratings for the first team.
Tony, do you agree with that? Pedri, best player on the pitch?
Yeah, but this is not nothing new, no? It's always the same with Pedri. For some people, he was a lie. He was not ready for professional football. We had to sell him. Blah, 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 blah.
Who said this?
A lot of people, when he was injured with former staff, with Xavi, people they were saying that we had to sell him because he was focused only with girls and going out. Yes.
Pedri.
He was very criticized when he was injured. Yeah, people inside the club, yes, saying that he was not ready, that he was not being professional. I remember it 1000%. How much?
I remember
it would cost.
I remember some. I mean, I don't doubt Tony, but I remember obviously there was some sort of doubts or moments, especially to do with the injuries and different things. But I don't remember him being sort of nightlife girls sort of questions about his professionalism so much. Maybe they didn't make them into the press at the time.
I remember one story in the media, but it was quickly shot down, and it was like, no, all he does is sit at home, watch football, and his brother does the cooking. It wasn't a big talking point among fans, at least.
And he was on an interview denying, for example, Gerard Romero. Yeah, I remember people. I will send it in the Discord. A lot of people were saying that he was not useful, and it's incredible. But not only with the ball. Yesterday, did you see how many transitions he was running like N'Golo Kanté, defending, recovering balls? It's unbelievable right now how much you would pay if you wanted to get Pedri.
Yeah, he's the best midfielder in the world. Maybe Vitinha is a case for. I don't watch a lot of Liga, but yeah, Pedri for me, outstanding. And it's so effortless. We were talking about this with Marcus May and his dad, Gary, after the game. And I think it was his dad who said the word effortless is perfect description for Pedri, yeah. Effortless while putting in loads of effort to run back and forward.
His performance levels, he's probably Barca's most regular performer, most consistent performer, straight into Spanishisms there. In terms of Rick's ratings, he's probably never lower than a 7.
Yeah, it's rare.
Possibly. I don't remember him getting too many. I don't remember if he's ever got a 10.
I would say I don't remember it outright, but I don't remember giving many players 10 over time. If there's someone who could get a 10, he would be up there. Obviously, he didn't score. He's not going to score a hat trick or anything. But maybe in his best moments, he might be up there for a 10. But you don't have to be a 10 in every game. If you're an 8 in every game, you're already one of the best midfielders in the world.
Yeah, a few moments on Saturday, like you say, obviously setting up the goal, but just in those moments after, some of the best moments are moments that don't necessarily lead to anything.
Of course.
But just like when the ball was bouncing and no one could seem to bring it under control, he somehow brought it under control and knocked it over a couple of players' heads, and then just sort of, I think he calmly passed it out to Balde or whatnot, and it brought one of obviously the biggest cheers from the stadium of the night. And just those times when he just the way he twists and turns away, like you say, effortlessly, it looks so easy and just loses players so yeah, effortlessly. Yeah. Word of the day, effortlessly.
Yeah, what a treat to be able to watch Pedri. It's the same thing I thought last season watching Lamine at times. This season, it's for me the focus is Pedri as Barca's sort of clear best player so far.
You know what? No. Just to sum up, I was now thinking. All the focus is, or mainly the focus is on Lamine. But for me, Pedri is more important than Lamine. This Barça without Pedri is worse than this Barça without Lamine, in my opinion.
I think this season that's a very fair comment. Last season, I mean, Lamine was important, Raphinha was important, Pedri was so important. But this season, I completely agree.
Yeah, right now, I mean, this is not to diminish Lamine, but you could take Lamine out the team and play Raphinha on the right, Rashford on the left, Firmino all the way through the middle, and not lose as much as you would lose by taking Pedri out, because who would come in for Pedri?
Exactly.
But let's see with De Jong. Now De Jong's sort of playing some minutes again. He should be back starting fairly soon, you'd imagine. It's an interesting point because for a lot of people that he's obviously better than Eric and he should be playing. But Eric, I can understand why Flick's been playing Eric, because obviously De Jong had family thing, missed a game, was ill, missed a game. Maybe wasn't quite ready to come back in. But then even since then, when he has been ready, he's stuck with Eric. And it's because Eric's been doing pretty well. But maybe I can see a case for Eric and Frankie and then Pedri move further up rather than a Raphinha in the 10.
Let's see if Flick ever tries it. I'm sure he won't try it on Tuesday. There may be minutes for Frankie de Jong, but you'd imagine a rest for Pedri as Barca go to Guadalajara in the Copa del Rey. Perhaps a chance for minutes for Marc Bernal, Marc Casado, some of the guys who haven't been playing as much recently. And an interesting decision perhaps to be made in goal. Flick's been quite clear in recent weeks that Joan Garcia is the number one. Now Marc-Andre ter Stegen is back and was on the bench on Saturday. No Chesney because he had flu. So we'll see what Flick decides to do in goal on Tuesday. And then a couple of difficult away games for Barca in the Liga. One to end the year at Villarreal, as we've discussed, next Sunday. And one to start the year after the Christmas break away at Espanyol. So some interesting weeks to come for Barca as they look to keep that winning run going in La Liga and progress in the Copa del Rey. We'll be back midweek after that Guadalajara game for more deep discussions on the Shark, probably, if you get some minutes in Guadalajara, among other things. And if you are over on Patreon, like Marcus May and his dad, you can maybe join us for a beer after a Barcelona game one day. No promises on that. Read the small print. In the meantime, stay positive.